Communication, what is it? And no, it is not just done verbally. This can be done non-verbally and visually. Yes, I know. How? Well, here I have a personal story about negative communications in the workplace, which can relate to improvements with teaching practices. Within this personal story, this will refer to a QCT, Queensland College of Teaching Code of Ethics, a domain of the APST, Australian Professional Standards for Teachers, and a communications theory. So just sit back and relax and listen how not to communicate and respect someone. Now, my story. It begins in December of 2019 with an innocent 16-year-old Bodie Richardson starting his first shift at the local bakery. And gonna be completely honest, I was pretty bloody nervous. I walk in the bakery and straight away I'm greeted by my newly appointed boss. He introduces me to my co-worker by the name of probably shouldn't say his name, but anyway, he shakes my hand with a shallow and dull face. And straight away, I could feel some real bad energy out of this bloke. Now, I had been working with my co-worker for about 2 months when this happened. So, I was sweeping and mopping outside the bakery when suddenly I hear a quick then a longer. I was confused as to who it was from. I turned around and realised that it was him. This became obvious that he communicates demands in a very strange way, and from that day on, something never sat right with me about him. So after a few more shifts of a bit of verbal abuse and his method to gain attention of whistling, it was on this day where I eventually snapped. I'd simply had enough. There was purposely no response. Then bang, I snapped my neck back at him and angrily say, "Mate, I'm not sheep." I continue my work and all he does for the rest of the shift is ignore me. Now this made it so much more easier to communicate with him. However, I feel as though I have finally stood up for myself. With my personal story, this heavily relates back to the 4th QCT Code of Ethic, being respect. How, you may wonder? Well, the Code of Ethic of Respect states that acknowledging the relationships with the students and parents must be based on mutual respect and trust. So as you can tell from my story, this clearly was not used by my co-worker having very little respect for who I was, which majorly influenced a lack of communication and many communication breakdowns. Also, the 7th step in the professional engagement domain of engage professionally with colleagues, parents, and the community clearly relates back to my personal story about how this was not obeyed. I mean, whistling doesn't sound very professional to me, right? Could you imagine if I was whistling at 30 odd students to gain their attention? Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd have a job for very long. And finally, a theory of communication that can relate to my personal story is the power of language. How so? Because our language of a teacher is very much a powerful tool. This can build someone up, or in my case, from my story, it can bring someone down. The power of language models caring and respectful social interactions. Or once again, in my case, it could do the complete opposite. Effective language can help students in their learning rather than criticizing them for their mistakes. So as a pre-service teacher, reflecting and acknowledging on my personal story of negative communications has in fact helped me by making me into a stronger and more confident person, which, as an aspiring teacher, are key qualities to have. This experience, you could say, was a blessing in disguise. So thank you for listening.